Hey, Kim Dean,
Hey, Courtney Benson, C. Benz.
C. Benz. Thanks for being here and being right down the street. But today is so crazy that we decided to just stream it in,
Yes,
streaming in our friendship. Um,
I like any kind of friendship I can get with you, Courtney Benson. So,
I like it too. So thanks for being here. Everyone's really excited about this topic today because hold on, my vanity light was glaring in my eyes. Because we're talking about why the hell aren't homes selling
yeah.
and what to do. And should we all panic now and all get jobs at Chick-fil-A because they are closed on Sunday? So we have a day of rest. Or do we just keep figuring it out and plowing through? So that is what we're talking about today. So thank you for being here I couldn't think of a better person to talk about this with because in addition to just the volume of real estate that you and your husband sell, you talk to agents all day, every day. You
Hmm.
take the panic phone calls. So you're perfect for this. So
Yeah.
I have to read my intro because I have yet to pre-record it because that's how I roll. So if you are new here, welcome to the Happy Agent, the show for real estate pros who want more freedom, more flow, and more success without selling their soul, because that happens in this business. So each week we unpack what actually works in real estate, from authentic marketing and mindset shifts to attracting clients and building a business that feels good and grows fast. I'm your host, Courtney Benson. I'm a top 1% realtor. I just got, before I got on this call,
Yeah.
word that I got the Wall Street Journal Award again for the year. I literally
Yes.
just got it and I was like, I was going to send it to you and I was like, she's busy.
Oh,
Um,
just announce it right here. Even
yes,
better.
yes. So I got that. So it's the top 1% in the country through the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
So
You
super,
got to see my real life
super
reaction to
stoked.
that
That's what
news.
I was waiting for.
Yes.
Thanks, Kim.
Yep.
Um, so I'm a social media strategist, according to Dante, and the creator of the Happy Agent Collective, which is our group here, Facebook group where we pump each other up and no douchebaggery allowed.
No.
So where alignment meets real results. So thank you for being a collaborator with me on this. And
Got it.
yeah, I know you're a busy girl. So let's
Yeah.
talk about some headlines.
Let's
The
do it. Let's do
heart
it.
pumping, stomach dropping headlines that we are getting. So I wrote them down. So according to NAR, our National Association of Realtors, inventory levels rose 9%. This is the slowest market since 2009. And I don't know if you remember what you were doing in 2009,
I
but
do.
my car was being repoed.
I was actually in real estate in 2009. I
Were,
sold in that market.
how are you doing in that market? I was not in real estate yet. No, I
Honestly,
wasn't.
in December 2008 is when my sister and I had the genius idea to start our own brokerage at that
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So we said,
Yeah.
if we can make it in this market, then we're going to be just fine.
We can make it anywhere.
Hmm.
That's why I don't sing. Um, yeah, you've seen it all. So this is our
Seen a thing or
slowest
two.
since 2009. We've had an 18.7% decline in sales since 2022. Nationally, we're at a 4.4 month supply. In DFW, we're currently sitting at 4.91 months of supply.
Hmm.
You want to tell the people what that means when we
It,
talk about a buyer and seller market and supply?
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't understand that. Even other agents don't understand. And if you're listening and
Yeah.
you're like, that's me, I don't know, then you're
Yeah.
welcome for this. So anything between 0 to 4 months worth of inventory is considered, in my book, a seller's market. Seller holds the cards. A 5 to 6 month inventory is what we call a neutral market, where things are pretty balanced. So according to what you just said, we're kind of in that neutral for DFW. Anything 6 months or more is when we call it a true buyer's market, where the buyers get to start calling the shots, where there's more homes available than there are buyers. Now, I saw a stat too, and you may have this down there, that right now there's a 500,000 more
Yep.
sellers than there are buyers. So,
Yes. That's what Redfin said. There's 1.9 million sellers and there's 1.4 million buyers.
right.
DFW and lots of markets, it's all that phrase hyper local, right?
Hmm.
So we're seeing market shifts from neighborhood to neighborhood. So we've got a
Hmm.
listing in Light Farms in Salina, Texas, and there's a ton of listings up there. So showings, we're not Oh, you're frozen. Wait, there you go. So we're not getting many showings. The open houses, we've had 2 weekends in a row, and I'm actually in an email group with all the other agents that also
Yeah.
have listings in there.
Yeah.
And only two, I think there were 8 open houses over the weekend, and only two agents got somebody to even walk in the door. One
Yeah.
was a neighbor. So,
Right.
yeah, so it can be kind of rough. So there's lots of panic, lots of drama, lots of people patting themselves on the back. So this morning I made a post about it in our group that there's another like big real estate group called Lab Coat Agents that a lot of us are a part of. And somebody asked this very question this morning, like, what are we doing with listings that are sitting? And nearly half of the agents were like, what do you mean? Like, I'm super busy. I've never been busier. Well, one, that was not the question that they asked, douchebag. So please get off your soapbox. I'm
Yeah.
I'm busier than I've ever been before too, and my shit's I've got like half of them sitting.
Yeah.
So busyness does not equate to sales.
No,
So
it doesn't.
people can stop with their nonsense. And so that's why I think this is a good topic.
It is. And as a matter of fact, though, I was on a Zoom right before this, and it was with some of our agent partners in Minnesota. And I asked them, because anytime I talk to a new agent who's not in DFW, I want to know, like, what's going on in
Yeah.
your world? And I'm like, are y'all having listings sit too? And they're like, no, like, things are going like hotcakes. And I'm like, seriously? And they're like, yeah.
So we're
What's
moving to
going on with you?
Minnesota.
And I'm like, we're hearing like crickets
Yeah.
down here. So what you're saying is very true. You can't listen to national headlines and think that it necessarily applies to your market.
Right.
You have
Right.
to talk to your local, hyper local agents.
Hyper local. Okay, so let's talk about why homes sit on the market in the first place. And this whole 45-minute podcast is going to boil down to one word that we're going to give everybody at the end of it. So you
Okay.
have to listen to the entire thing
Okay.
or you're going to miss it. Okay, so why are homes sitting?
Number one for me is they priced it wrong, right? My very favorite thing to tell a seller, and when I heard this, I'm like, ugh, I'm bringing this up on every appointment I go on now, is that not even a Super Bowl commercial can sell an overpriced listing. Meaning, I don't care who you sit in front of and how much money they have to market your home. If you price it wrong, it's gonna sit.
Yeah,
So,
100%. So about 90% of them are overpriced. Now I'm looking at my statistics on the board. Poor presentation. And
yes.
I think we're going to actually see more of this as some agents struggle financially. I know my listing photos went from $150 to $600 with the implementation of drone and just better photography.
Right.
And shoot, I just did listing photos last week, and my seller was like, "Hey, so I'm not going to list right now." So guess who's sitting on that $600?
Yeah.
That would be me.
That just happened to us too. We had
Yeah.
someone decide
Yeah.
after 2 weeks that now wasn't the right time. And we had just sunk almost $700 into video, drone, photos, and
Are you
everything.
writing
And
it in your listing agreement to pay you back?
we are. Now, this particular instance, this is a repeat client. This will be our third transaction with them. And we know that in about a year, they are going to. And so we said, look, we know you're in a tough spot right now. So
Yeah.
we're eating it right now. And
Yeah.
we said, however, if you decide to change course or not sell, then we, because it was written into our listing agreement that if you cancel, we're reimbursed for
Yeah.
that. So anyone listening, write that in.
I
Now
have
we have the
not been
right.
doing that, but I am now. This particular seller, I wouldn't ask for that money. It's same thing. We've done a lot of
Right.
deals with them, and so that's fine. But it's something to consider. I know there's an agent that we work with now. She's got, I think she said she had like 30 listings. She does in Denton. Shout out Chrissy Maloof, and she's like, that's a lot of money that's just out there, and so also something to consider.
Well, You mentioned so poor presentation. This year, specifically, Derek and I are committing to staging. And so because the homes that look like models, the homes that present the best are the ones that capture the attention.
Yep.
And so it helps with the photos and videos to get them even in the door. And then once they're there to connect with that psychological connection to the home once they're in there.
100%.
So
Yep.
we made the commitment this year that if our client will pay up front for the staging, at a certain price point, we don't do it for every price point, then we will reimburse them at closing for the cost. And it has paid off really well this year so far. And
What's
so
that
in a market,
conversation you have with them about doing that? And what's that price point?
so for us, we feel comfortable over like the 600,000 to 700,000 price point. So we'll offer it at that point because what we do is we look at the downside. If we don't, we know then we're gonna have to either lower the price, it's gonna sit longer. And in cases where we need that home to sell in order to purchase the next one, it's in everyone's best interest to just
Yeah.
remove that obstacle and
Yeah.
say, look, here's, and statistics back us up on this. Homes
Yeah.
that are staged professionally sell for more and in less time.
Yeah.
So if we know that and we're on a time crunch, then why would we not offer that?
Yeah.
So
No, I like that's brilliant, and I agree. But I think we are going to start seeing more cell phone pics crop up,
possibly.
simply because of the cost of holding properties longer
Yeah.
from agents. So definitely a good way to set yourself apart is to hire the best photography that you can, even if it means your seller needs to chip in. If you can have that
Yeah.
conversation with them, but that people buy homes online before they ever step foot in the door. So a buyer has to see themselves in that home online before they even call an agent or schedule an appointment. So it is paramount. Lack of exposure and just posting it on MLS without anything. And we'll get into this more about the social media piece of it. I think social media sometimes gets too much credit for marketing when the reality is that is not necessarily the case. But let's talk about pricing red flags. How do you know? Because I will say, and I've had this conversation with I'm primarily a listing agent. Gabe works with our buyers, so I do a lot of comps. I also do all the comps for his buyer's purchase. I'm like the comp girl in the house.
Same. I'm the
And
same. I'm the numbers person.
yeah. And so I'm super picky. I go through and I make adjustments for things. And I'm sure you guys have seen my video about the pool that was triggering the other day.
Spot
So I go
on.
through
It
it.
was spot on, people.
It was spot on. So I'll go through and I do adjustments and things like that. But what I'm seeing is when I do comps, I can comp a property for sale and I'm looking at what is also available online. And if you go just based off of comps, like, okay, well, the comps are, 525 to 535. So we're going to price here. But there's a bunch of homes that are comparable that have been on the market at 525 and they've been sitting there for 30 days or so. That is not your window of comps. Like you have to be able to take market adjustments and analyze what is out there and then adjust. So if I sit down and I'm like, hey, Mr. Seller, here's our data over the last 90, 120 days, and you're falling between 525 and 535. And the seller's going to be like, great, let's go at 535. So we have room to negotiate. Please stop doing that. That's not a strategy. And you're looking at homes that are listed at 525 and 535 and they're 120 days on the market, 150 days on the market. Guess what? They're not going to sell in that range either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you're coming in at a deficit because if it's similar home, the buyer's going to go to the one that's been sitting on the market longer because they think they're going to be desperate.
Yeah.
So now you're pitting yourself. So best thing to do is go in and undercut all of those people and take their attention. So you have to be able to see the projection of the market, not just the numbers.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
I'll
I
get off my
think
soapbox.
Yeah, and I think some agents look at the comps and they don't factor in that each month that has happened leading up to the month that you're in, there has been more inventory, now more inventory, now more inventory. So you got to factor that in and say, okay, over the last 6 months, how many homes actually sold? And especially if you're in a market against new construction, break out new construction over here, and you can't factor that in
No.
to your pricing. You've got to price it only against, other retail homes. But knowing that you're up against new construction is huge, and you need to know what are those builders offering, what incentives are they offering, and talk to them about it because
Yeah.
that is your direct competition.
Yeah.
And I think looking at the trajectory is important, but also pull up those expireds, withdrawns, and terminated because those are telling a story too. That means those people wanted to sell but couldn't. And so what was that price? Or what was the marketing? What did those photos look like? Why did it not sell? Because that told a story.
Would you
And
ever
so it
call them?
all tells that
Would you
story.
call those people and ask them why?
Yeah.
Would you call those agents and find out?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll also call pending listings too, because sometimes those
Yeah.
can be your best comps.
Yeah.
And so I'll call and try to strike up a friendly conversation and see if I can't get them to spill a little bit. Because technically we're not supposed to divulge the sales price until closing, but we can say, are you
You
close?
can if the seller said, or if your client says you can.
Well, true. That
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Because I bring that, I'm the jerk who, when I have a buyer and I call that agent and I'm like, hey, so like what's your offer? What's your top offer? Or what? And they're like, I can't tell you. And I'm like, well, that's not true. You know that if your seller says you can tell me, you can tell me. And they're like, really? And then I'm like, yeah. And
True. Yeah.
so, so I play that card. But also, if you call the pendings, if they did open houses and they have buyers who've come in and that they met that were not represented, and now they have this kind of pool of unrepresented buyers, and you're like, hey, FYI, I'm getting ready to go on the market in your neighborhood. Anybody you want to throw that out to? I mean, they can put some feelers out too. So that's a good way
Yeah.
to get
Make
that
them
word
work
out.
for you. Yeah.
Make them work for you.
Create a little
Um,
army for you. A little army of buyers out there.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just being super friendly. People have
Yeah.
not been friendly lately. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've noticed that past couple
What
of
is it?
days.
Honey attracts more something than.
I think it's desperation and frustration. I think we're seeing a lot of that. I've had
Yeah.
some interesting conversations. So I pulled a statistic. So if you're 21 days plus on the market, it means your home is 5 to 10% overpriced. That's nationally what we're seeing.
Naturally. Got it.
Nationally. And I see that. And I always think too, please stop taking $1 off the price of the house. Whatever agent, if you're the agent that's doing that, stop it. You
Yeah.
look
No one likes
ridiculous
you.
and you're just doing a disservice to your clients. And I can imagine the conversations like this. Hey, seller, we're we're going to trick everybody by showing a price reduction, and it's going to be $1. Like, nobody will get it. It'll bring up all the new marketing, and it'll be, dude, no one's dumb. Stop it. Like,
Yeah.
and if you're going to do a significant price reduction and pay attention to the pricing brackets that you're falling in. Like, don't stay. It's the same buyer at 725 that's really at 750. It's the
Yeah.
same buyer. So if you're at 750 and you go to 748, same buyer, same buyer. They've already seen it. So you have to make a significant move. Otherwise, you're just wasting time and you're giving your seller fatigue because you're
Yeah.
having the same conversation over and over again.
And you can tell if you look at the charts for your property views on sites like Zillow, on Realtor.com, you can tell if you make those type of adjustments, there's nothing that's really happening with the views. It's not
Yeah.
until you get to that bracket pricing change where you really see the blip going on or you see a surge of new showings come in because now you're in front of new eyeballs. And so I'm a huge proponent of trying to, whenever clients allow us to, price on the bracket.
Yeah. And so when we all used before Broker Bay, when we used, what did we use
Showing
before
time.
Broker? Showing Time. What was before that?
CSS.
Oh, God, I
Your
miss
girl's been
them.
around a long
I
time.
miss
Yeah.
them. I miss CSS so much. They used to have so much data where we could go in and plug in the house and the zip code, and it would show you how many showings per price bracket. So you could see if your showings were meeting the metrics of the other homes in that zip code in that price. So if they're getting 10 showings per week and you're getting 3, then you need to figure out your marketing sucks, basically. That's why. But Broker Bay just womp womp. Like it's
It does have
terrible.
some at analytics if you look
They're
in there and there's some
horrible.
reporting.
They're horrible. I did it and it didn't even show my listing as being on the list the other day. I was like, what? Why am I not even on on it. I have issues with broker pay. Um, so 21 days plus, you're 5 to 10% overpriced. If you have a lack of showings, I always tell people this, and I tell sellers this because I'm very big when I sit down. I'm like, look, I'm going to tell you things you love, and you're going to be super excited. I'm going to be your best friend. And then some days you're going to be like, if this girl calls me one more time? I said, at the end of the day, I give you facts. I don't give you emotion. We're just fact based over
Yeah.
here. And then we figure out what we want to do with the facts. So if you're not getting showings, it's because one, the buyers are seeing you're overpriced already because they have so much access to information. They're already comparing and they're like,
Yeah.
why even bother?
Yeah.
Buyers different sides like to create a villain out of the other side. So the buyers instantly like they must be difficult to work with. Like that's what they think. So they don't schedule showings or your marketing sucks. Like that's the reality. If you're not getting showings, your marketing and your pricing is falling short. So they're not seeing something online that makes them want to go the next step, schedule a showing. If
Right.
you're getting showings and you're not getting offers, it means that your marketing is good and their buyer experience when they enter the house is poor. So your
I like that
marketing
word,
is
buyer experience.
outpacing their buyer experience. So and I tell them too, like these are the things that we look at. We're not guessing. There's no guessing here. There's too much data in real estate to be out here guessing. So these are the things we're looking at so we know immediately and make an adjustment.
And that's the importance of setting proper expectations from the very beginning. And so if you
Mhm.
say something like that, like we do the same thing, that's our rule of thumb. If we're not getting showings, it's a price problem. If we're getting showings and no offers, it's a condition problem. Meaning they're
Mhm.
coming in here and they're not liking what they're seeing, or it's
Yeah.
not stacking up against the other homes that they're going into. And so we tell them that right from the get-go, because they'll ask, right? Well, at what point do we do a price reduction? Like, we'll know. The market
Mhm.
will tell us. So
Yeah.
if we're not seeing the kind of traffic that we want or any acceptable offers, then that's our first clue.
We know. And the number one marketing strategy, as told to us by I never say his last name,
Shran
is
Srivatsa.
thank you. It's pricing. Pricing is just think of pricing as a marketing strategy, and it is your number one. All right, let's talk about market shifts. So we talked about the headlines, why homes sit, pricing red flags, and market shifts. Is it overpriced, or are you not paying attention to the shift in the market? So we are seasonal. Things happen seasonally. I always
Yeah.
jokingly say when I talk to my sellers and we're trying to figure out when to bring the home onto market that if it is I call it a dad holiday. So 4th of July, Memorial Day, football, Sunday,
If you need a
anything,
grill
yeah, anything grill related. Anytime any man wants to put on a tank top
and put a slab of meat on a
and put a
grill.
slab of meat somewhere that they're not looking at homes. So just know that. Just know that. If it's a mom holiday, like we're super busy on Easter and Mother's Day. Every year, super busy on Easter and Mother's Day. Those are good times. Did school just end and are people going on vacation? Is
Right.
school getting ready to start and people are on vacation? Did school just start and we have that typical slump until September, but school
Right.
dates moved up, so now that got moved up. Like you have to know the cycles of things and how it's playing out.
Yeah.
Thoughts on
No,
that?
yeah. So I think so too. And also, like last year, we saw this in real time with the election, right?
Hmm.
Seeing how that impacted
Yeah.
everything as well. And so,
Yeah.
so many buyers would even they're coming through open houses and saying, well, I like it, but you could see it. They weren't in any rush. They wanted to
Yeah.
wait. They wanted to see how that election was going to impact interest rates, either for the good or for the bad. And so you need to know that those triggers are out there because your clients are going to ask you, well, what's holding
Yeah.
them back?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just
And it's
being
always
upfront about
fear.
that.
Buyers, it's their number one thing right now. I mean, the interest
Yeah.
rates, yes, we get it, but I'm not getting a ton of interest rate pushback. I think people are settling into it right now. Like there's just a fear. There's a fear that everything costs too much. There's a fear that they're making the wrong choice. So even if they have the ability to make the choice to buy, they don't want to be fooled because they'll think they missed the window. They missed the window before COVID when all the prices skyrocketed and they almost felt like they were foolish, because they didn't buy. And then it's like they're so afraid to be wrong that they don't that they are
Yeah.
paralyzed.
And the stakes are higher right now because a lot of people are walking away from a really low interest rate. So either they
Mhm.
bought or they refinanced back in 2020, 2021. And so the move right now is going to cost them more. And even if they stay at the same price bracket, it's still going to cost them more.
Yeah,
So I think the stakes are just higher right now. So when they do
absolutely. Yeah.
move, they want to be damn sure. They're like, I need to know we're going to stay in this house for a while, that kind of thing. So that's working against us right now too.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting that. And I do have some sellers right now who bought at the peak during COVID. We're in the Dallas Fort Worth market. We lost some values, especially in Collin County. We
Yeah.
were anywhere from 9 to 12%, and so we're just kind of climbing out of that. So they're in that process right now. So I had some sellers 2 weeks ago, and they ended up writing a check to sell. So we mitigated it. It was about as small as we can make it, but
Right.
they did have to write a check to leave. So
But I
that's a
haven't
reality
seen
too.
I haven't seen that play out though in 13, 14 years since it was trying to figure out a number where they could break even,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because for
we were
so
good till that damn foundation repair.
yeah.
We were good. That foundation repair really threw a wrench in it. So, and then
Yeah.
that became the motivation is, okay, now we, you were good. You were going to walk away with something, which they were like, I can't believe we're even at this. They were surprised that we sold it as high as we did.
Hmm.
And then, then the foundation then was like, well, you're going to have to address it.
Right.
So,
Yep.
so let's talk about the talking to sellers up front. So we're
Mhm.
going on listing appointments, and I've seen this in some of the groups too, that people are going on listing appointments. They feel like they're just delivering bad news, and then the seller's like, I'm gonna wait. So what is that conversation up front? You've got a listing appointment coming up. I don't want to go in there all doom and gloom, but at the same time, I have to give them people have to know what they're walking into,
Yeah.
and what does that conversation look like that you're doing?
So I think it really is driving down to you really have to find out their motivation and find out if they're truly motivated from the get-go and not just someone who's like, I'm thinking about it. Because you could find yourself in a situation like we started at the beginning of this podcast about where now we're on the hook for the marketing dollars we've spent on a property, right?
Mhm.
And so really drilling in and asking lots of questions, even if they're uncomfortable questions, to make sure that, yeah, they're in it, like they need to sell. And once
Yeah.
you've established that, then showing data, to me, numbers don't lie. It's not me coming and telling them that their house isn't worth that. We're saying the market is worth telling us. So
Mhm.
it's the phrasing that we use around this. And Sharon is so brilliant with how he speaks and talks about this. So if
Yeah.
something I like to do is to listen as much as I can to people say the words, because the more you hear it, then it becomes ingrained in what you're saying,
Mhm.
right? And so setting the right expectations when you're coming in. And so
Yeah.
anchoring it with their motivation, like, okay, you need to be in San Diego in 60 days. So because of that, here's what the data shows. Average days on market is 57, right? So if we want to sell in 57 days, we're going to price it average, or maybe, but we need to price under, right? Because we know they need to
Mhm.
be there. And so
Yeah.
that all directs our pricing conversation as
Yeah.
well. So when you know the average days on market for the neighborhood, and you can also talk to them about the trajectory and say, look, inventory has been steadily growing. So not only do we need to price slightly below average, but we might need to really be aggressive with that because,
Mhm.
and you can show them the data for that neighborhood.
Well,
So,
and I think some agents get afraid that if they do that and bring that up, then they won't get picked.
well, that's where
And,
you need to also bring that up too and say, look, and I ask, are you going to be interviewing any other agents? And so, assuming if they're not, then I know I'm good. But if they are, I say, I make sure, please, when you interview the other agent, ask them for where are they getting their data? Where are they getting their
Mhm.
numbers from? Because we all have access to the same pool of data,
Yeah.
right? And numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. And I when I sit down with them too, and I ask that as well, but I tell them, there's you're going to get this data explained to you in a variety of ways. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, what I need you to do is make sure you are comfortable with the most accurate information, because I can tell you one thing and then just apologize to you later that it didn't happen. And then where are you going to be? So
Yeah.
you need to figure out, are you moving forward based off of hope and something that you want to hear, or are you moving forward based off of facts? And, and I tell them too, my job is to give you facts. I don't make decisions for you. So I've done this a long time. I give you facts and I present them to you. We talk about them. You decide what's best for your family, and then I advocate for you. And
Yeah.
that's it. So if all I can do is this, and then you document what you've told them. So if you have to revisit, you've already documented it, because you definitely don't want to revisit information or talk about it later. And then when emotions get involved, they're like, well, you didn't tell me, because everyone likes to say you didn't tell me. So you
Right.
just remind them, well, we remember when we sat down, we had this conversation and these are the decisions that were being made. So now we need to make this set of decisions. And just being honest and upfront. With people. So we had talked about, I love Sharon's 10-10-0
Yeah.
rule
You
that he
pointed to
has.
something.
And this is so good. And I actually have, if I got to do a video about, if you go to, I have a website where I have some free content for agents. And on the checklist that I have when you go to meet with a seller, I have in there, did you discuss the 10-10-0? So 10-10-0 means when you go in and you say, hey, Mr. Seller, we have a 10-10-0 rule. If you have no showings in 10 days, or if you have 10 showings and 0 offers. So 10 days, 10 days, 0 showings, 10 showings or 0 offers. That means we're going to make a price adjustment. So we already know up front. And a lot of times we discuss what that number is going to be before they even sign the listing agreement. So you're not having to surprise them. They've already
Right.
digested it. They've digested it in a moment that they're not so emotional. It's all when you present the information. So if you're presenting information that's hard to hear and they're already emotional and feel like they're taking a hit, then it's not going to go over well. But if you present the information prior to them having emotion about what's going to happen or may happen, you're going to get a different response. So 10-10-0.
10-10-0 is a
10
great
days,
one.
0 showing. What's up?
So that's a great one,
Yeah.
and also his the way he words the pricing too. Either we can come in at perceived market value pricing, aspirational pricing, or invitational pricing. And I like the way that he phrases those too, because we need to get away from, or we need to help our sellers get away from having an emotional attachment over the list price, because we know that the list price won't always be where we sell at. And so as long as they are aware of that and they can be okay with that, then that all comes down to how we prepare them before it ever goes on the market.
And I think this is a good segue to the next part where you're like, holy shit, I already took the listing and now I actually have to have these conversations. So here is a key phrase that you will get when you know a seller is really emotionally attached to a price. When you talk about lowering a price or making a price correction, and anytime or even during an offer, and they utter the phrase, but I'm already giving up $10,000. I'm already giving up $20,000. What that signals to me is they took their offer price, their asking price, and they deposited that check in their
Yeah.
pocket before you even went on the market.
Yeah.
So if you hear them reference money lost because they adjusted their price, you know you're going to have an emotional situation on your hands and you really need to get in front of it. So all right, you've been on the market, you're communicating every week, every day, whatever comes up. So every Tuesday I update my sellers. Dante and I will write something. He's my chat. I have trained him to do an outline for every property. I give him the address. I tell him what metrics happened this week. Here's the showings. Here's any ads we ran. Can you go ahead and create it with our market data that we have? He spits out the email. I send it to them I do a CMA for them every week. And so every Tuesday they know they're going to get communication with me. And also I communicate in real time. So anytime something comes up, a showing, feedback, whatever it is, I communicate that in real time. So you can't leave people guessing. If they
Well,
guess,
and
they're going to think worst case scenario.
that's so important, because I remember this back in 2008, 2009, when homes, the average days on market was closer to 90. It was, a lot of agents were scared to reach out to their client, or nothing happened for weeks at a time. So you just didn't reach out. But actually calling and saying nothing happened is communicating something,
Yeah.
right? Having a system like what you're describing is huge. And it also relays your professionalism, that you're full time in this. You're not just off, traveling while their home just sits on the
Yeah.
market. You're actually keeping tabs on what's going on and advising them properly.
And you have to have a plan. So, even if nothing happened, every week I reach out with what we're going to do next. Because can you imagine sitting there and you're like, your whole life as a seller is on hold for this step to trigger all the other steps. You're moving your family, emotional, your financial obligation, and the person that you've tasked with helping you with such a big thing is like, I don't know. Like next week, I don't know. We're just going to keep doing the same thing. So you have to be active in what you're going to do next. So what else do we want to talk?
I like to keep little things in my back pocket too. I like to tell them, hey, if we are still on the market at 30 days, it's at that point I actually like to do a broker open, because what it does two things. One is it gets the agents in that area who are most familiar with that real estate to come in and perhaps say the same things that you've already told them that they need to correct, whether it be the price or the red paint that's on the dining wall or whatever it is. And when they can hear it from someone else, kind of like when kids hear something else from that's not their parent, it's like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
maybe I should do
They're so
that. And you're
smart.
like,
Yeah.
that's such a great idea. I wish I would have
Yeah.
thought of that. So you're getting them to say it, and I make them put it in writing, and I also make them guess
Yeah.
what they think the final sales price will be. So I have them do
That's a
that.
good one. And
Yeah.
don't you give away prizes for
I
them to do
do.
that?
I lure them in. So the title company that we partnered with on that listing will usually reach out to them and say, hey, would you like to donate a prize? We're going to do a broker open. We invite them to come as well, because then they're going to advertise it to their sphere too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doubling your audience. So I'm able to tell my client, we're bringing in all the agents. Here's exactly what they think about your home. And that gives us bait or ammunition for making the next step. But it also, we tell them, oh, well, they do a lot of business in this area, so it could jog their memory for someone they might be working with that this home is a match for. So I like to keep little things like that in our back pocket to show that we're being creative and we're thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I also pay my 17-year-old to go put flyers in the neighbors' boxes too, to invite them to. And what happens is one of the neighbors before took a picture of the flyer, or took a picture of the Ring doorbell video and sent it to my homeowner. Like, oh, look, thanks for giving us the heads up. And so you just have to show that you're active and you're working. And so every week when we reach out with our seller updates, I try to bring something new to the table.
Yeah.
So I'll bring a new CMA every 30 days. I'll do an NAR, the RPR report. I'll bring that up every 30 days because the data refreshes every month. I want them to see what they think that, how much inventory is currently on the market. Then the next week, it might be one of my title company graphics for the statistics that month. And so you're showing new data points from different sources. And so all of that lends to your professionalism. You're staying on top of things and listen to me,
Yeah. I also like to reach out to other agents that have homes listed in that neighborhood. Just shoot them a text message. Don't call them, and just send them a text. Say, hey, I'm the listing agent on blah, blah, blah. I've got this open house coming up. Do you want to piggyback off of it, market it together? Or, how's your listing going? Anything I can help you with? And then that way, and then get to learn about their properties too. So when you're doing an open house, maybe you're like, oh, you want white cabinets? We don't have them, but this house does. You're also marketing together to bring people in, and you get more eyeballs on it. So, okay, let's talk about what we can control. So a
Okay.
lot of this is out of our control. So one thing we can control, and I want to address this, is the social media and the videos, because I will get, people will text me their listings and ask me to do TikToks about them. And what's so wild is people will text me and I have no idea who the hell it is because they're not even in my phone. I'm just like, they're like, hey, Courtney, can you do a quick TikTok about my listing? No. So no. But also I want to tell
I
you
should have
why.
thought about
No.
that with you, Courtney.
I
Man.
know. And I'd be like, who's Kim? I don't know who that is. It depends on what your content looks like. So I will share, I will share my listings and stuff on stories, and I will share them on Instagram. Me making a TikTok about a walkthrough video, unless it's something really unique, doesn't resonate with my audience. That's not what I'm known for. But even then, the homes that go viral and get a lot of attention are the weird ass homes. So, the ones with the weird sex swings in the bedrooms that people didn't take out, those always go viral. The ones that have been the same since 1960. I mean, think about the homes that you see on Zillow Gone Wild.
Right.
Those are the homes, right, that are going to get the most amount of attention. So if you have a typical, North Dallas brick construction with
Yeah.
tile from 2014 and dirty
Right.
grout, your home's not going to go viral and it's not going to be that interesting. And sometimes when you do get eyes, it's because the agent is being funny and interesting and people are not even paying attention to the house
True.
anyways. So does that mean you don't do content? No, that's not what that means. But set the expectation of what doing content for a home actually looks like. And don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I actually love a new AI hack that I heard, and that was running a buyer profile on ChatGPT before, making your marketing for it and say, what are the pain points of the people who is most likely to buy this home? And then immediately making the hook of your video something that will appeal to that ideal buyer. Because, for
That is
example, we have a listing
brilliant, Kim.
in we have a listing in Grand Prairie, and that buyer is going to be very different from the one that buys up here in McKinney, or up in Pottsboro, which has 13 months of inventory right now, which is
That
is
sounded
unreal.
personal. That comment sounded personal, Kim. Is that because you have a listing up there?
Maybe, maybe it's a really great one, by the way. If I could just use this as a
Can I?
moment.
Yes. Everybody who's listening has a
So how
buyer
do
in
you sell? I get
Pottsboro.
on people's podcasts and I
Yeah, I
talk
get on
about them,
people's podcasts.
like 57 Bob Jones Court,
Yeah.
right on the golf course.
Oh, that one?
5 minutes from the lake.
That
You could be
one's
on the lake
amazing.
or on the golf course for under a million. You're welcome.
That is good. That is good.
But I have to know those buyer profiles in order
Yeah.
to make your social media, the video that you're spending the money on, go to the right people, the right set of eyes.
I love that. So instead of just doing, hey, welcome to
Don't
56
ever say
Bob
that.
Jones Court. Is that what
Yeah.
they had? 56. Yeah. Instead of saying that, maybe it is, do you want to be on the golf course and on the lake at the same time
Right.
and your budget's up to $1 million? I got you. And
Right.
then talking about it. So not giving the address when you start, not giving, just and also showing the best part of the house. So if you're going to do a video, start with the piece of the house that's going to sell it. Is it the pool? Is it the backyard? Is it the fact that you can walk to a really cool coffee shop? So maybe you actually start at the coffee shop
Right.
first before you even get there.
Yeah.
So thinking
Absolutely.
about that differently.
Find the thing that makes it different and start there
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And again, you can't outmarket bad price. Just saying that again for the cheap seats. You
Yep.
cannot outmarket a bad price. A couple other things you can control. You can control the price as much as we can. The conversation with the seller who ultimately decides. If you're going to reprice the house, then you should do an open house that weekend. I also really believe in targeted ads inviting people to an open house. So instead of just randomly running an ad that week, the ad is drawing people into the open house. So they're seeing the ad. Oh, great. I can go see it by myself on Saturday at this time. Give them a call to action, which would be the open house.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I
great
think
too.
that's a really good way. What else? Changing photos. Do you change listing photos? The front
I
photo?
can, yeah. If we are struggling just to get people in the door, sometimes it could be that your first 3 to 5 photos aren't the ones that grab them. Because
Right.
depending on the portal that they're looking at, some portals only pull the first couple. And so maybe rearranging your first 3 to be the most impactful, even though they're out of order. Because usually when I upload photos, I like to have a flow to them, like
I
we
do
don't want to
too.
have a
I do too.
bathroom
Yeah.
next to the backyard, next to the
Yeah.
kitchen. I like to have a flow to it. But for the first 3 photos, perhaps picking the most wow in order to keep people there. So yeah, I've done that before. And I've
Good.
also changed up the description. I've done that before. Or in certain cases, having it redone, having them reshot if they just weren't great the first time.
Yeah.
If it was lighting or if you were in a change of season, right? That can happen
Yeah.
too.
Or Lacey, our friend Lacey Brucci, who was on your call this morning, she's run some of the photos through AI and had them enhance the sky or just the lighting or things like that. As long as it's not fake,
Right.
um, you can do things like that. All right, so we're getting low on time because Kim's got 8 minutes before she has to be on her next Zoom
Yeah.
call, whatever. So let's talk exit plan. So
Okay.
I'm in this situation with a seller right now, and actually I released a seller just a few days ago who complained every time we got a showing, and I'd literally get, ugh. And so I was after the 10th, I was like, all right, we're good. So, and then she admitted she didn't want to sell the house. So, there's that motivation, and
Right.
$800 later in 130 days. Awesome. So let's talk exit plan. Like I have one, my sellers decided to try to rent it because it was a rental prior. So now we're for rent, for sale. So I've been doing that on some of them. Like and even if the numbers don't work, sometimes I offer it to them anyways. Like you don't always know what exactly their pain point is. We do, but we don't always know the part that's going to trigger them. And maybe that's the part that they're like, okay, we got to get more serious about selling because renting is not going to work. And offering that information up.
Yeah,
Anything else for an exit?
I also will be in a case like, for example, let's say they're ready to buy the next home, right? And they're just waiting for this one to sell. I would introduce them to the concept of the bridge loan as well, because sometimes you can allow them to buy the next home. And then with the house empty, and depending on, again, it's house
On
specific,
how bad their
but
furniture is.
right. And so getting their furnishings out of the home and then staging it with new, fresh things can
Yeah.
make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And a slight repositioning of price. So say, hey, here's another option. We know you want to be here. What if, So we've got to change something. If you stay the same and expect different results,
My God. Hold on. Sorry.
how
Jerice
rude.
Bolden is trying to FaceTime me,
Oh,
ma'am.
answer it. Answer it.
One thing too, we kind of went past this one is creative financing when trying to sell. Now I've done this with interest rate financing. Like I have a lender who will preemptively with like a $25 buy down from the seller can float certain interest rates. I am not seeing that being successful right now. But other things with, offering money towards closing costs and keeping the price higher if it'll appraise, things like that.
Yeah.
Give me your 30-second on that one.
Yeah, I like that. What I don't like though is when you're offering like a carpet allowance, something like that, because buyers are too picky right now and there's too much on the market. They will just choose one that's already ready or they will go for new construction.
Yeah. Oh my
Instead, I would
God.
like to introduce them to a vendor that will allow pay at closing. So say, you know what? I understand you're strapped on cash right now, but let's get someone in to do the work and then you pay it at closing. We did this last year with a client of ours who they wanted to be at this $1 million price point, but the bathroom didn't read $1 million. The paint and carpet didn't read $1 million. So we had a company come in that we could pay them at closing. They did a full bath remodel, flooring and paint, and we got that over $1 million price for them. And they didn't have to come out of pocket with it. So
Yeah.
coming up with strategies like that to say, you know what? Let's do the work now. Let's pay later. Let's get it in the condition that will warrant the price we want.
Right.
So I like being creative like that too. But
Yeah.
I don't like the allowances.
No,
I
because you know
don't.
what they do is they mentally deduct the allowance in their offer and then ask for it again.
Yeah, and they also think that the thing that needs to be fixed will cost 4 or 5 times more than it actually does need to
Always.
be
Always.
fixed.
Yeah.
So that will never help. Now, offering to buy down the rate if you're in a community that is in direct competition with new construction, I do think helps because they're comparing apples to apples in some cases.
Yeah.
And you might have the readily available floor plan that's priced just a little bit less. And if you can match or come close on those interest rates or concessions, then that could help. So that's
And
the importance of,
talk to your lenders because some of them will do it. My lender will do it. I know
yeah,
you've got one that does it as well.
yeah.
And that's
Or
big.
even
All right.
they put a sign out front too
Yes,
saying,
they'll
ask
put it.
about,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got 3 minutes.
Okay.
thank you again for being here and sharing your brilliance. I hope that helps ease some people's mind. I know we went through it like quick and fast here. But really, at the end of the day, it's about upfront communication and being honest with facts. Share facts. Don't assign emotion to the facts, and don't come at them with your emotion about sharing the facts.
Yeah.
Just share the facts. Communicating as often as you can, especially if you've been on the market. The longer you're on the market, the more you should communicate.
Yeah.
Don't let them spiral. They're going to think the worst. Being creative with coming up with ways to sell the home, and each week presenting them a new way to move forward for the next week. Partnering with your lenders, coming up with creative options. Know when to exit. Know if you need to lease it. Know if you need to pull it for 30 days and relist on day 31, or knowing if you as an agent need to walk away. I think sometimes we don't realize that we may not be the best for that client.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a hard truth. Like, I am worn on this listing. I have no more ideas and I'm not doing them any service at this point. Hey, maybe I need to tap out and refer it out to somebody else. You
Yeah.
could even go for a higher referral fee, maybe. But you might not be the right agent for them.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the one word this whole thing really comes down to is what, Kim? What? Say it, Kim.
Price?
Pricing.
Pricing.
Pricing. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's always price. And when people argue with me, I'm like, would you buy the house for $20? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, there you go then. So at some point, there's a price. Somebody will pay for it. Doesn't mean the seller will accept it,
Right.
but it's always price. So thank you. Go be fabulous on your next person that you're going to help rescue their business and save their life and make them laugh, and love being part of everything that we do. So, all right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday right here. I don't know who it'll be. It'll be someone great because it's always somebody great.
It always
So
is.
you'll be surprised when I am too.
Thanks,
Have a good
Courtney.
day.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Kim.